You are watching Business Plus here on News 9 Live. I am Krishna Kumar. First up, a quick check of all the headlines that we're tracking. After the cancellation of its merger with Sony, a SEBI probe reveals that around 800 to 1,000 crore rupees have been siphoned off from the deal by Zee. The amount is much higher than the earlier reported figure of 200 crore rupees. BYJU'S releases its FY22 report card after a 22-month delay in filing. The company has reported a net loss of over 8,200 crore rupees. The count of taxpayers, meanwhile, who filed tax returns more than doubled to 7.8 crore rupees in the past 9 years. The number of taxpayers witnessed an increase of over 105% from just 3.8 crore rupees in the financial year of 2014. Fog disruptions continue to be the reason for flight delays at Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport. Around 150 flights have been delayed at the airport as of the 23rd of January. Republic Day curbs, meanwhile, hit traffic in the national capital. Traffic snarls have been reported at various locations like C-Hexagon, ITO, Sarai Kale Khan, Ashoka Road, as well as the border areas. We begin with the Zee-Sony merger, which fell through. News continues to erupt from that collapsed deal after nearly 2 years of negotiating. The Sony Group on Monday called off its $10 billion merger with Zee. After the cancellation of that merger, a SEBI probe is now set to reveal that around 800 to 1,000 crore rupees could have been siphoned off from the deal. And that amount, bear in mind, is much higher than the earlier estimated and reported figure of just around 200 crore rupees. Upon the call-off of the merger, Zee Entertainment Enterprises' stock fell over 33% in trading day yesterday, down to 155 rupees a piece. Zee's stock fell to its lowest level since August 2020. However, in early trade this morning, Zee's stock was up just about 4%. And to talk about more on that, we have Karthik Malhotra joining us in the studio for Business with Karthik. Thank you for taking time out and thank you for being here. Come on, let's talk about this, because we all thought it was the question of whether the deal is going to be called off or not. But the moment the deal got called off, so much trouble. Not so much for Sony, because Sony continues to want to be invested in the Indian market and expand its presence in the Indian market. But for Zee, trouble after trouble after trouble. First was the question of the $90 million termination fee that it has to pay. That's right. And then now comes this another bomb that's going to be dropped, because bear in mind, the investigations began in October 2023, and the Securities Appellate Tribunal had begun that investigation. And now it looks like, when the investigation is completed, which could be about 2 to 3 months from now, around 1,000 crore rupees could have been siphoned off. And that means both Subhash Chandra and Puneet Goenka will be barred from holding the key managerial position, or KMP, in any listed entity.
Absolutely, Krishna. Good to have you back. Welcome back. I think, the troubles actually began last year with this merged entity talks falling through multiple cracks in between and yet resurrecting itself. I think what has really been the final nail in the coffin this time around has been the fact that Puneet Goenka, obviously backed by his father Subhash Chandra, have put their own selfish interests ahead of the interests of the minority stakeholders. And that led to these multiple talks and clashes with the Sony group, really reaffirming every time their insistence on Puneet Goenka holding the key management position as the CEO of this merged entity. Sony Entertainment all this while kept pushing for NP Singh, the India head of Sony Pictures, to be at the helm of this merged entity. And then, one thing led to another. Overall, I think this deal has seen its own fair share of turbulence. It has been a saga which we thought is going to be ongoing. And just on Monday, when the final termination notice came, we thought that this is the end of a saga. But it looks like now another new season of the saga begins, this time not with Zee-Sony alone, but ghosts from the past which come back to haunt Puneet Goenka. Now, this figure of 200 crore rupees, which was allegedly siphoned off from Zee Entertainment, obviously under the aegis of Subhash Chandra and Puneet Goenka, was something which was instrumental in SEBI back last year saying that Puneet Goenka will not hold a key management position. That order was in fact set aside by the Securities Appellate Tribunal, which told Puneet Goenka that he can go ahead and lead a merged entity. Now, news coming in again that the volume of the money siphoned off was not limited to only 200 crore rupees. It could be as much as 5 times higher than that. We haven't been able to independently verify that number, but news reports suggesting that we are looking at a corporate governance and a siphoning of mess amounting to as much as 1,000 crore rupees. So, I don't know which of the two is worse news for Zee Group right now, the Sony deal not going through or really explaining to the regulator on where that 1,000 crore rupees went.
And talk about bad timing. The merger, in fact, was happening because of all the troubles that Zee was having with its own funds, and the fact that the company was not able to sustain itself. It's a conglomerate that grew possibly beyond its own abilities to so many channels and so many businesses that it could not contain, and there was debt to be paid off. There's just not enough money in the company. It needed the merger to keep the Zee brand going.
So I think, the merger, Krishna, was actually, it was custom made for both Zee and Sony, and had it gone through, Sony would have brought in the financial muscle. Zee already had the market share. The merged entity would have commanded as much as 32-33% of the total viewership of general entertainment content in India. And India is a large market. 1.4 billion people consuming content is a large market. It also comes at a time when Reliance and Disney are negotiating and the possibility of that deal going through. But now there is one little hitch again with the Reliance Disney deal on one end and the Sony Zee deal falling off, because Disney, which held the ICC cricket rights, the digital rights, had actually chosen Zee Entertainment in the hope that this merger will go through as a television partner for offshoring those rights for TV telecast rights of cricket. And cricket, of course, is religion in India, and we've seen only Ram Lalla and the Ayodhya temple has given some run for its money to cricket. But otherwise, this was obviously another big deal, revenue deal in the making for Zee, because advertising revenue would have really shored up had the cricket rights gone through. So now it seems that Disney is also going to have second thoughts and is likely to back off that contract where Zee will get telecast rights, TV rights of the digital rights for cricket that Disney holds already. Given all this, now questions emerge: what next for Zee? I think Zee currently, between father and son duo, they hold a little under 4% of Zee Entertainment stock. About 20-22% of it is held by LIC. Now the question arises, question number one, will there be another suitor? And I think all speculations pointing to AMG Adani Media Group being the the knight in shining armor to come and rescue Zee. No confirmation there, but that seems like one possibility. Reliance coming in at this point seems unlikely if the Reliance-Disney merger were to go through. And if Reliance were to want to make a bid also to acquire Zee, I doubt CCI is going to give it the go-ahead because it becomes a monopoly. Now the point is, can Sony, given all that has happened, still go ahead for a hostile takeover? Keeping the father and son duo aside, 4% is not too much stake, and with their financial muscle, can they come in and go ahead with the merger without Puneet Goenka and Subhash Chandra? That is the big story that I would wait to unfold.
Right, and you're talking about that stock. Look at what happened to that stock, falling over 33% and up about 4% in trade, but that's because it's found lows that it hasn't seen in over 3 years.
Yeah, I think some people have just gone and picked up the stock at a very, very attractive valuation. But the point is that has happened despite late evening news coming in yesterday of 800 to 1,000 crore rupees being siphoned off, which to my mind would have perhaps led to more selling rather than buying. But I think those who wanted to sell the Zee stock had already sold and are hoping to pick it up at a cheaper valuation. That seems to be the underlying current. And
also the fact that in India, as far as the Indian stock markets are concerned, which recently beat Hong Kong to become the fourth largest stock market in the world, buy on every dip, buy every stock on every dip seems to be the...
But look at the dip. You're talking about the dip. Just look at the graph. And this is a 2-year graph that, that we've put together. Look at the sharp rise. It's almost a vertical rise of the Zee stock 2 years ago when the Zee-Sony combined merger was likely to happen when it was announced. And then it sort of, kept its range intact. And now look at the sharp fall that it witnessed yesterday. Right. It's a vertical down. So it's pretty much back to the lows that it saw before the merger was announced.
All right, so that's the case as far as the Zee stock is concerned. And with that, we are taking a very short breather here on Business Plus. We'll be back with all the big stories in just a jiffy. Don't go anywhere. Keep it with News 9 Live.
It was my 14th birthday.
On birthday, daughter waits
or missing father.
He was carrying a cake for his daughter.
49-year-old Birmingham-based
Indian diplomat vanishes.
He was grabbed and bundled into a car by 4 assailants.
KLA claims responsibility. Demands Kashmiri separatists.
Makbul Bhatt's release.
गोली मारो और फेंक दो.
And within 3 days, they shot him dead.
Abducted diplomat.
Found murdered in Leicestershire.
I said, who ordered to kill him? To me, he said, yes, I ordered it.
And he never came home.
Stop searching. Start streaming. Download the world's first news OTT. News 9 Plus. Ahead of the curve.
20,000 people dead and counting. What's happening in the United States of America is unprecedented. You will have to pay for this. Why is the state not looking at putting an embargo on that?
As a Telangana person, I will not accept.
How do ordinary folks deal with this?
Currently, the industry is facing a lot of challenges as far as demand is concerned. Basically, the US markets has slowed down because of high inflation.
So obviously, diamonds being a dream product, something which doesn't have a utility value or is seen as a luxury. So that obviously goes off your shopping list. That's the first item that will go off your shopping list, especially in recessionary trends.
That lab-grown diamonds are not mined, and they do away with the entire mining. So they save up on all the environmental damage that is associated with mining, and of course, the mining cost, which is why they're even more affordable.
People that is impacted by all these recessions are the artisans, are the people who work in this industry, right? But I think lab-grown diamond has allowed them to actually use their skills in the same product.
This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus. Download now.
You are watching Business Plus, and troubles don't seem to end neither for Zee Group or for the beleaguered edtech giant BYJU'S, which was once valued at over $22 billion as the most valued startup in India and the world. And India's most valued and loved startup is now looking to raise around $100 million at a valuation of just $2 billion. That's the fall from $22 billion at the end of 2022 to just at the beginning of 2024. In just about a span of 12 to 14 months, the valuation of BYJU'S is down from $22 billion to just $2 billion. Also because it can raise funding worth $100 million from its existing investors. To be sure, this is not a markdown on the books of investors like the Dutch investor into BYJU'S Process and BlackRock, which have surfaced many times over the last year, but a real down round of funding when fresh capital is being raised at a valuation of just 10% of its 2022 highs. The consolidated financial statements reported by BYJU'S don't paint a rosy picture as well. After a 22-month delay in filing those consolidated financial statements, the company has reported a net loss of 8,200 crore rupees, a doubling of losses from the previous year, while revenues have also doubled in the same period. But losses at twice the size of cumulative revenues is a huge red flag for a company whose path to profitability continues to remain extremely elusive. Karthik, again, I mean, if we thought troubles don't end for Zee once the deal fell off, trouble just don't seem to end for BYJU'S. And as we're talking about, from $22 to $2 billion is a fall. But then again, this is not about investors marking down its value. But what is really concerning is the latest in terms of its consolidated financial statements, which it took its own sweet time. It took 2 years to release the consolidated financial statements. Losses double the size of its revenues.
Just imagine, I mean, at a revenue clip which has grown, in fact, the revenue itself has doubled from FY21 to FY22. And we're talking about the consolidated numbers here, not just Think and Learn, the parent entity, but across Akash, across, all the other platforms that they have acquired. So while revenue has more than doubled between FY21 and FY22, losses have also almost gone up 90% in the same period, at a point when revenue is 5,000 crores, you're looking at losses of 8,000 crore rupees. These numbers obviously spell big trouble for the edtech sector per se and for BYJU'S as a company. And mind you, path to profitability is not the only issue that Baiju Ravindran is battling right now. There is this FEMA notice on him, and this entire money laundering act which is now tightening its noose around Baiju Ravindran. There is absolutely no clarity yet, though he has denied it, but there has absolutely been no movement on whether he's been able to substantially prove to ED that he has not gone ahead and laundered money. So that, even in his own priority list, is #1 on the priority list of battles to fight and try to win, whereas path to profitability is #5 on his own wish list. The second, and I think an equally relevant point to be raised right now, is that this is still FY22 results which have come out a good 22 months after the deadline lapsed. What about FY23 results? That has also been delayed by over a year already. So I think we know for a fact that even this $100 million that BYJU'S is trying to raise right now from existing investors is not going to cut it when it comes to, look at the numbers, look at the losses it is making, and look at the other challenges it is facing. And there have been issues which have surfaced from, from Baiju Ravindran and Divya Gokulnath really mortgaging their own house to raise some money to pay salaries of BYJU'S employees. We've seen CFOs come and go. We've seen a new CEO in Arjun Mohan really, strapping up and taking these challenges head on. But I think the broader problem still lies in the fact that, is the business sustainable?
Yep.
And should it be allowed to continue to burn the money of investors and while away time, bidding really, time right now to find some sort of an exit or some sort of a solution? Right. I think it's about time that the board comes together and says, okay, Baiju Ravindran, we let go of you. Thank you very much. You've built something which was worth $22 billion, but we take it on from here, and you're no longer serving in the best interest of the company, and perhaps you have not served in the best interest of shareholders for the last 2 years at least.
A business that once was termed to be a $22 billion business, and today, according to the latest, I mean, this down round of funding means that it's valued at $2 billion, but then they actually say it's about $1 billion right now. Even
on the books of BlackRock and Prosus, it has been slashed to about $1 billion, right?
Yes.
But it is raising capital at $2 billion, so that is obviously the value at which even existing investors are willing to put in additional cash. Basically, now with a lower valuation, any sort of cash infusion is going to get investors a much higher share in the company. But the point is, what is that share worth?
Yeah. And the other question I want to ask is the wordplay that's used. Things are messy beyond belief for BYJU'S at this stage. And how did they ever think of signing up Lionel Messi in the middle of all of this? What kind of money they paid for Messi, to the point where they really forgot about the salaries of their own employees? There's clearly something very wrong with the decision making over here.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, everybody is wiser. So if you were to ask Baiju Ravindran today, would he have rather saved on that money instead of paying Lionel Messi, or should he have not sponsored the ICC World Cup cricket? Perhaps he would say yes. But when you're on the growth trajectory, when there is no funding winter, in fact, there is a lovely downpour of funding from all corners around the world, you end up burning cash, you end up spending money on things that you think are going to aid your growth. It did aid growth at the time when that growth was required.
Right.
But I think, yeah, you mentioned things being messy. I think this is a quicksand which is sucking in Baiju Ravindran, and it seems very difficult for him to emerge.
And from what I understand, they still owe money to the Indian cricket team for their jersey sponsorship as well.
Of course. Yeah, so BCCI has sued them, in fact, has threatened to take them to NCLT and initiate insolvency proceedings. They are trying to work it out outside of the courts.
All right. Troubles are not going to end anytime soon, ladies and gentlemen. We'll keep you abreast with the latest as far as BYJU'S is concerned. But moving on here on the show to something that impacts you, me, Karthik, and just about everybody watching this, and everybody putting the show together for you, the count of taxpayers in India, who basically people who file tax returns, has more than doubled to 7.8 crore rupees, 7.8 crores in the past 9 years. That's the latest data that has emerged. The number of taxpayers has witnessed an increase of 105% from just around 3.8 crores in financial year 2014. Karthik, fantastic news. Just want to understand, yes, of course, we're talking from 2014 to now, which is almost a decade is what we're talking about over here. How would you rate a growth of over 105% in a decade? I mean, it's okay, par for the course, would you say? Because the numbers on the surface of it all looks fantastic, but would you expect it to would have been 200 or 300% growth?
I mean, see, it's a great headline, right? Yes. And let's not discount the fact that with the economy growing, with the affluent Indians growing, with more people being taken out of multi-dimensional poverty, etc., if we were to believe all those, headlines and all those reports emerging, yeah, I mean, let's not discount the fact that the number of taxpayers have doubled. But Krishna, I believe in the world of investing, there is this rule of 72, and I apply that in most cases, right, when you look at data over a period of time. So the rule of 72 says that if the rate of growth into the number of years is 72, your money doubles. It's basically just a simple compound interest formula. Apply it here. That means the rate at which taxpayers have grown in India over the last 9 years has been just 8%. Every year, you're just adding an additional 8% people to actually double the number of taxpayers. That, to my mind, that's just about inflation, right? But that is when you talk about the volume of tax collected, right? Which in the last financial year was about 16,000 crores or so. The target for this year is about 18,000 crore rupees. So the point is, you're adding taxpayers at a small clip of just about 8%, which to my mind is not enough. If there are more and more people being sucked out of this poverty trap and getting into the affluent section of society, the affluent class, which earns anything between 8 to 10 lakh rupees per annum as defined by, by Goldman Sachs, I think overall there is still a problem with the number of people paying taxes. With a population of 1.4 billion people, assume that even 50% of them are worthy of tax-paying citizens earning enough. Assuming that a family has a size averaging to about 4, you should still look at a much larger number than 7.8 crore Indians.
I think that it makes it really simple if you count India's population in terms of crores.
Yeah.
140 crore people, 140 plus crore people, and just about less than 8 crore are taxpayers to the country. I think that's another way of looking at this headline. But we have to move on here on the show because we've got lots more lined up on Business Plus, and we have to talk about the fog disruptions that continue to be the reason for flight delays at Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport. 150 flights have been delayed on the 23rd of January. Karthik, I mean, fog, this is the time of the year when there is fog, and what it means to civil aviation is that if there's going to be fog in Delhi NCR at the Delhi airport, which has the largest number of takeoffs and landings for an airport in this country, it means that every other airport in this country and every airline in this country is going to be affected.
So, Krishna, I think, the problem is very simple and straightforward. Number one, does India have enough Cat 3 trained pilots sitting in the cockpits? If yes, are they rostered correctly? That was obviously the issue with Air India and SpiceJet, and DGCA had sent a notice to them. But I think the more controllable problem here is the fact that Delhi's 4th runway which is the third Cat 3 enabled runway, has been under maintenance for the last 3 months. It was supposed to be operational in the month of October. Last week, Jyotiraditya Scindia, the Civil Aviation Minister, came on record and said that it will be operational before the Republic Day, 26th of January. Add to the fog disruptions is the fact that there is in any case a 2-hour no-fly window in and around Delhi, given the Republic Day rehearsals which are on, and an inoperational Cat 3 runway. We are 2 days away from 26th of January, and that runway is still not up and running. So I think it is obviously a major lapse when it comes to planning and when it comes to forecasting such disruptions and not being prepared for it.
Right. And also, would you say this time around in the Delhi NCR region, the winters kicked in a little late. I mean, it was not until the last week of December that we saw peak winter. Usually it happens by, say, second week of December, and then the fogs and the fog situation could have improved by now.
I'm saying, the time of the year notwithstanding, Delhi is prepared to have foggy mornings, foggy evenings, at least 20 days in the winter season. This year we may have seen 30, but the point is you've got to be prepared for 20. If you're prepared for those 20, even if you're prepared for those 10, just replicating that success in landing and takeoff ratio over the next few number of days of fog is not going to make matters worse. In fact, if you're prepared to handle fog for 10 days, you should be jolly well prepared to handle it for a full period of a month. The point is we are ill prepared, both at the end of the airlines and at the end of the airport. I mean, the runway should have been Cat 3 enabled and operational well before any estimation of fog setting in.
Right. And also, one is from the airports and to have enough and more operational Cat 3 runways. And the second is, of course, the airlines that we're talking about. We are having enough Cat 3 trained pilots. From what I understand from the aviation industry, we don't have enough pilots who are Cat 3 trained.
See, Krishna, I think, while some aviation friends that I have spoken to, pilot friends I've spoken to, and and some sources at airlines, they've confirmed that about 50 to 60% of all pilots in any airline are Cat 3 compliant. Now, the problem is that when you talk about the Cat 3 sort of technical landing and takeoff jargon, it is very simply defined that an aircraft can land on autopilot if you have the Cat 3 systems in place, both the pilot and the infrastructure and the technology. And aircrafts can land in visibility of just about 50 meters. Now, aircrafts, on the other hand, cannot automatically take off. They still need a pilot in command to take off. And DGCA guidelines require the visibility to go up to at least 125 meters for the pilot to physically take off the aircraft. Now, the problem is that while Cat 3 enabled pilots and aircraft on Cat 3 enabled runways are able to land in lower visibility, they are stuck on the ground because they cannot take off until visibility improves to 125. That leads to all other problems, from parking bays to passengers not being able to deboard aircraft going to terminals because terminals are jam-packed, and overall delays and mismanagement.
Right. So it's a situation that is continuing to trouble India's flyers. And bear in mind, the number of flyers in the country have crossed all-time highs. The 2023, in fact, had the highest number of flyers ever in India as well. So this is a problem in a sense that the demand is catching up faster than supply, both in terms of number of flights available and in terms of number of runways available as well. So I think India's civil aviation sector has to keep things moving fast, because I'm quite confident, Karthik, that 2024 will beat 2023 numbers as well. And from here on, with the arrival of the increased affluent class and more people taking to the skies, it's up to India's civil aviation sector to make sure it meets the demands of the people who need to fly at a time like this. But Karthik was talking about the fact that the fourth Cat 3 runway on the Indian in Delhi airport should have been ready before the Republic Day. But then again, before Republic Day came another news, the NOTAM, or the Notice to Airmen, which means that from 10:20 a.m. to 12:45 p.m. there can't be any takeoffs or landings at the Delhi airport owing to security reasons in the preparation to Republic Day. So that's one Republic Day curb as far as the skies are concerned. But meanwhile, Republic Day curbs are hitting traffic in the national capital region. Look at those visuals, traffic snarls in the middle of fog over there, ladies and gentlemen. At various locations, not just one place, across the city, right here, even in Noida, from where our studios are, there's just traffic snarls everywhere, fundamentally because the fog situation, and then add to that all the security curbs that have been put in Delhi. C-Hexagon, ITO, Sarai Kale Khan, Ashoka Road, just about all the crucial roads in Delhi are just choked because of the curbs that have been put over, the diversions that have been put in place to ensure security is in place for the Republic Day celebrations. Karthik, I mean, talk about one thing on top of the other. One is the weather that we're talking about over here, and then on top of that, Republic Day. Yes, security is extremely important. We have invited France's President Emmanuel Macron for this. It's a very prestigious occasion. It's the time, look at those visuals. Everybody in preparation over there. India's security forces in preparation over there. This is a time of great pride for India. Republic Day is an important day in our national calendar. But of course, things could have been made a little bit more easier for commuters in Delhi.
I mean, I think it's just the volume of commuters and the fact that Rajpath is absolutely located bang center of Delhi. All roads practically from one way or another don't lead to Rome, don't lead to France. They in fact lead to Rajpath if you live in Delhi NCR. So commuting to work, commuting from work, and going from one part of the city to another, crossing the center of the capital, which is Rajpath, India Gate, and the surrounding areas of Connaught Place, are obviously, for the dress rehearsals, they remain blocked for a certain period of time. All other artery roads get choked, and passengers, commuters like us become victim to that. I think if you can go ahead and work from home tomorrow, because that is the second day of the dress rehearsal, 25th of Jan, it should be something that organizations should voluntarily implement, and public transport seems to be the next best option. It may not be the best idea to take your car out and get stuck in this traffic, waste fuel, waste time and your patience, and end up doing things.
So
that you don't want to
we give two caution notices to all those watching the broadcast. One is if you don't have to fly up until the 26th of January, don't, because flight schedules are a mess. One, because of the fog, and apart from that, another 2.5 hours of no flying from the Delhi airport. And of course, if you can work from home, if you can take public transport, if you can plan your life for the next 72 hours, please do, because there is 102% chance that you're not going to make it where you need to make it on time. At least a delay of 15 minutes to half an hour is what will happen, if not worse. So here is us telling you that these are unavoidable situations. Yes, when it comes to flights, certain things could have been avoided with better preparation. But of course, this is Republic Day. It's important for Indians across the country, and for all the Indians not living in India as well, who look forward to those the Republic Day parades beaming through their television sets. And of course, now these days, through your mobile phones and your tablets and your laptops. Karthik, just a moment we can spend on Republic Day. It's talk to us. One is the fact that it's a matter of pride. It's another fact that for India's security forces, it's not every day that the average common Indian, the civilians, are thinking about India's security forces and see the glory of them all. And in that sense, it's a wonderful occasion. We keep talking about all the troubles that commuters face and civilians face. And you're somebody who comes from the Air Force background. So talk to us. What is it like when somebody like you watches the Republic Day parade?
I mean, I think my heart goes out, in fact, to all the soldiers and all the officers. And look at those visuals also on your screen, who practice every day for a month starting at 4 a.m. Right. And that is when the practice starts in biting winters in Delhi NCR.
For a month.
Right, for a month, starting at 4 a.m. every day, being there on Rajpath, marching up and down the street and really practicing to make sure that the viewing experience and the pride that they exhibit when they are marching down those streets, and not just the physical marching, I think even the contingents that come, the jhankis as we refer to them, and the fly past. My only sort of problem with the Republic Day timing really is that Air Force officers spend months practicing for that fly past, and it is flawless year after year. It's just that because of the fog, the cameras are unable to catch it. And for those sitting there, you hear the sound, you look up in awe, but before you notice, the aircrafts are gone. So it's obviously, the timing of fog, I think, on Republic Day could have been better for the sake of pilots out there who in fact are battling the same visibility problems that commercial planes are fighting when it comes to taking off and landing in foggy conditions. And here you're flying absolutely tight-knit formations, just a couple of feet away from each other at those Mach 1 speeds and higher, and really performing and
such an act of daredevilry.
Absolutely.
And all I can think of is that what if our Republic Day was in the month of March?
March would have been perfect. I think,
for
who doesn't.
But then again, we can't change those things. We can't change history. We still need to celebrate it. And here is a salute to all security forces who are, as we speak, are rehearsing both in the skies and on the ground. Here's a salute, and with that, we've completely wrapped up here on Business Plus. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Karthik, for taking time out to be with us.
Thanks,
and with that, we are going to take a short breather over here. We'll be back with World Business Report on the other side. Don't go anywhere.